Hello, and thank you very much indeed for coming back and listening and watching the next episode of Synergy 6's Unfiltered podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the reality of PR. Is it really that important? And you can see that it is because my guest is already smiling at this one. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Hannah Patel, and I'd like, Hannah, if you could introduce yourself to the viewers.
Sure, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me on, firstly. I'm looking forward to chatting. So my name's Hannah Patel. I'm the EMEA director of a business called Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry Communications, easy for me to say, also known as the Lorries, because it is a bit of a tongue twister. And we are a technology communications consultancy, so anything from PR right through to marketing, mostly working with B2B technology vendors of all sorts of shapes and sizes, really. So yeah, that's us. I'm based in the UK, and then we've got offices sort of across Europe and in the US as well.
That's great, and it's always good. I always look at people's pictures behind them and think, Jurassic Park immediately gives me your film genre.
I've got Jurassic Park, and then I'm trying to look which way, and then I've got some a signed record of a quite obscure sort of rock and roll blues band. So yeah, there you go. It's a combination because my husband and I share this space, but these are the two things that we agree on. And the rest is history.
So let's get down to this. So I look at this as PR, so public relations, communications, not press release. We'll get onto that one later. Is it really that important to businesses? In the areas that I've covered and cover as a business across cybersecurity and their adjacent markets, when things are going bad, what gets thrown out first? Marketing, PR, people try and treat them as the same, and they're not. Please don't. But they get cut first. So where do you see the issues now with PR out in the industry today? Are you a zero-sum game where there is no value, or is there a hidden value that people just don't get?
Yeah, I think the part of the reason that that happens often, like you said, it tends to be the classic things that that businesses are having a challenging time financially, perhaps, or they refocus on other things, or perhaps it's not going the way that they think it's going to go, and so the first thing is, right, well, the agency maybe has to go. That whether that's investment or a fit or whatever it is, and I think we've got to take some responsibility for that. So as an industry, I don't think we've done a very good job over the last however many years, sort of 10 plus years that I've been in the industry, that in measuring the value of what we do. So all of the measures have been quite self-serving. So it's like, well, we have distributed or written X number of press releases, or we have delivered this. So it's all very output based, so showing how busy you are, essentially, and saying, look, these are all the things that we've done for the money that you've paid us. And actually the thing that is really absent often is the outcome of that. So it's all very well to say, well, we've written and distributed this many press releases, or we've arranged this many interviews, but actually, like, what has been the impact on the bottom line, the business objective that has been set out at the beginning? And I think there's a combination of things. It's agency consultants not asking the right questions, perhaps. Right. So not actually asking, well, what's the business objective that you're trying to meet in the next sort of 3, 6, 9, 12 months? And then towards that, then that's one thing. I think it's on the other side, perhaps not understanding that when you're hiring and investing in PR or marketing, you are you need to bring people in, and actually, as in when I say bring people in, I mean like into the fold, into the be open to discuss things like your business goals, talk about your revenue.
Tell me you're a team player.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like just so it's a bit of both. But I think that's it. That's part of the challenge, is that really we as an industry there's lots of people that say, oh, it's intangible, you can't measure the value. And don't get me wrong, there is a little bit of intangibility. You know, if you secure a really big piece of coverage, then it's not necessarily going to mean that the phones are all going to start ringing on the other end. So it is slightly harder to kind of trace it back to exactly where it meets, you know, lead generation, but it's doable. Yeah. It's just, I think it's time consuming and people don't necessarily want to.
So have people got a misconception of what PR is as an issue? You know, do they think that, like you say, in the 10 years or more that, we've been working in the industry, we went from column inches to columns and big print out books and stuff. And, so...
ad spend, like quantifying coverage by how much it would cost to buy it as advertising, like all of that stuff. Yeah, that's where we started. Yeah.
So is it, do people have an issue with PR that they think it's a vanity thing? You know, that I said, right, I'm going to build a product, I get something physical out of it. Do people say PR's vanity and the ROI, of which, by the way, in cybersecurity, it's really difficult to find a return on investment for cyber because you're stopping something from happening. Yeah. Is there a tangible ROI that people see an issue with that they can't get their heads around?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think the vanity thing is a good place to start. Is where actually you've got to question why. Like asking, that's our job, is to always ask why. So okay, so you want to be on the front page of, you want to get coverage in the FT, or you want to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Why? Is it actually going to help you sell more product? Is it going to help you grow your business? Is it going to help you get investment? Or is it just because it's going to make you feel good? Yeah. Now, doing things because it makes you feel good is not a bad thing. You just have to be honest with yourself about why you're doing it. So if 10% of your PR objective is actually because we just really aspirationally, for our team and for us, would love to see ourselves featured in this particular publication, that's okay. Just be open about it's sort of being open about why you're doing something, and then actually being quite self-critical about saying, well, where are our buyers actually, what influences them? So what are they reading? And it might not be the traditional perception of PR, which is basically media coverage. It might be that actually they're spending a portion of their time on LinkedIn, they're attending certain events virtually now, and they're reading certain other publications that perhaps you maybe wouldn't have expected. So it's an agency that really understands your industry. That's the other thing, is I think that's partly where things have perhaps gone wrong, is that not working with a specialist, so an industry specialist that really does understand the nuts and bolts of the industry that you work in, because they should be able to then give you that advice. And it's never going to be an exact science. You can't say, I know that 100% of CIOs read this publication, but we can have a good, we can have a good guess based on experience. And I think it's just listening to that advice. And that then means that that when you're focusing on, certain activities or certain publications, you're doing it with a tangible result or benefit in mind, as opposed to just for the sake of it.
So if someone comes to the lorries and says, I believe that I need to increase my PR, my communications that's out there, would you turn them away if you don't think they're ready?
Yeah. Right. I'm talking myself out of a job here, aren't I? So don't bother.
I'm not going to let your bosses see this.
Don't call us, we'll call you. No, there are absolutely, because there are times when your businesses, for whatever reason, are not ready for ready for PR. So I think often, you see it where people, they build something, they have a great, they have a great beta kind of run, or they maybe got their first round of investment or whatever it is, and they're like, this is going to change the world, and we believe it, and we believe that we've solved a problem. There's no proof, aside from probably some very smart people in the business that have developed a product, and perhaps some initial early stage investors that maybe put money in, but they'll come to us and say, this is going to change the world, here's why, and you need to ring every single journalist that you know and tell them about it. Now, how often do you think that happens to, you know, to agencies, but also to the media? And they're absolutely bombarded. So PR is absolutely, can be an effective way to build business pipeline and to secure investment and to do all of the things that, you know, we know businesses of lots of different sizes want to do. But there is a point when we will, and we always will have the conversation. I think that's the key thing, is that we put so much time into having these kind of qualitative conversations to actually really understand the mechanics of what you're trying to achieve. But there will be times when the answer is you're just not ready, because it's you know, it's a consultative partnership which takes your time. So again, if you haven't got time, if you're like, well, we haven't got any time, we just want to outsource our you know, our press office to an agency, immediately it's just not gonna work long term. And there will be agencies and people that will say, yeah, we'll do that, give us, you know, whatever it is, X amount of, you know, £1,000 a month, and we'll do that for you. But in experience, it doesn't build a long-term partnership. So it's not like buying a kind of an itemized list of, you know, we want this many press releases, or we want this many pieces of coverage, so go and get them for us. It should be, if you want it to work, it should be a bit more evenly balanced and a bit more of a partnership. And then you'll find that you'll actually get results. But there will be points in that sense. Well, we've done it, you know, many conversations I've had before, I've said, I just don't think that this is the right thing to spend your money on right now, given that you've got a limited amount of funds and there's 57 different things you want to do. I don't think that putting your money here is the right decision. And it's interesting, some people don't like being told that, and they'll go and find someone that will take the money, and that's absolutely fine. But others, we've seen it where, you know, we have sort of sent them away with some advice, always with, you know, and we're not paid for that, but some advice, and then they've come back 6 months later, a year later, and it's built a long-term relationship because it was the right advice at the right time. So I just think it's always best to be upfront with people about whether we think they're going to get value. We might not always get it right. But you know, you can sort of speak from some experience, and hopefully 9 times out of 10 it's the right advice anyway.
So if you look at the way PR's changed, or the way that we consume information, so is social media the golden egg that everybody wants, or should I still be playing with, let's call it, digital media as well as printed media? You know, is printed media dead? You know, it's no longer the chip paper type of environment, you know, or should I just go and involve a social media administrator who knows everything about it, and plow all my money into LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and what have you?
Don't put all your money into TikTok. Sorry, TikTok, not saying that, but that's, I don't think that's but I think that's exactly your question you're asking, exactly the point. It's like, it's all your eggs in one basket, and that's, I think, again, part of the problem is that depending on who you talk to, they'll always lead with the area that they're most confident in. So, you know, a social media strategist will say, focus on social media, don't focus on PR. A PR only strategist will say the opposite, because it's also about the area that they're most comfortable in, saying, I know I can get you results here. So we have been trying to build, you know, over the last however many years, a much more, you know, it's a much more balanced approach. So yes, our legacy, as with a lot of communications PR agencies, is in traditional PR, corporate reputation, external comms, media relations, or content, all of those things. But I think the thing that's helped us is because we've always written a lot of content, because we work in really niche industries, so we have to, you know, be able to write the content and understand it from a technical point of view. It's meant that it's kind of easier to bridge into some of the more modern activities, so the digital media and digital marketing and social media, which now, you know, does feel still, even that feels kind of slightly old-fashioned, but I think it's helped us kind of bridge into those things. And so actually what I was sort of talking to the team about, not taking a sort of a PR first approach just because it's where we feel maybe more comfortable. So actually thinking, is PR in the traditional sense, media relations, the right thing to start with, or is it better to do a really solid piece of content, so an ebook or a thought paper or something like that, and use it for digital marketing, and then later on look at how we build in media relations, for example. So the key is not putting all your budget in one place, I think, and also not thinking that you need to run like 4 or 5 different strategies.
Right.
So, we need a PR strategy, marketing strategy, go to market, lead generation, social media, something else. Like that's often where it becomes really difficult to manage. If you've got, one marketing head who is responsible for everything, and they're having to run 6 plans with 6 different agencies, it's a lot of money, a lot of time, and it relies on that one person to hang it all together. So I think actually just taking a sort of slightly more I hate the word integrated because it's such an agency word, but a slightly more blended approach that does a little bit of everything. That's where we've seen, especially for sort of mid-sized businesses, which is where a lot of our work is, that kind of from larger startup right up through where they're really trying to rapidly grow. It tends to be you need a bit of everything. I'd say it's a bit of a catch-all answer, but
no, it's there. So you look at, like you say, the new stuff that's coming down. So I deal with vendors almost 100% of my time, apart from when I'm talking to end users for the vendors. So is there a place for a press release still? Or are they still bored? Or are they still going file 13 in the bin and journalists don't do them? And
we're not faxing them to people anymore or printing them off and sending them to people. So that, or writing by hand. No, so there is still room. I think when it's useful. So obviously if you're, public companies, we work with some public companies, there's an element of, corporate investor relations that you have to issue news in a certain way at a certain time of the year, standardized. So that's absolutely where there's room. Generally updates for investors, if you have investors, that does tend to be somewhere that you can use a press release, slightly more formalized way of doing it. Funding announcements, again, another thing. The other one that kind of works is maybe momentum releases. So what we mean when I say momentum release is like an annual kind of recap of the stats and status of the company, achievements, those sorts of things. So instead of doing an announcement for every single customer win or every time that someone breathes because it's been an achievement, just perhaps grouping it together and maybe doing it once a year. So there's still room, because actually some, journalists, I wouldn't like to speak for all media. So the journalists, there are some that would say, have you got a press release on that? Because it's just a way for them to quickly digest the information. So I think that there is still room if you understand why you're doing it, and you understand that you're not just going to distribute that and then break the internet and everyone's going to go, we're going to feature that press release on the front page of, the virtual front page of our website or whatever. It's used for information. So people are able to, it's an easy way for some media to consume information. And then not necessarily cover it, but actually just log it and say, okay, well, we've got that. Next time we're interviewing X vendor, I can go back through the last 2 to 3 press releases that they've distributed or they've put on their website. And it's a very quick, it's almost a reference sheet for people to sort of research back and say, okay, these are the things that they've done over the last year. So there is still room. I think it's just the question always, which is the one that often is missed, is where is your customer? What's going to influence your potential customer? So as a vendor, you're trying to sell to CISOs within retail companies. Where are those CISOs going to be? What are they going to be influenced by? And is it going to be a news release, or is it going to be a piece of advice, thought leadership content, or a piece of content that sits on your LinkedIn? What's going to help them to do their job and actually see you as a bit more of an educational resource, as opposed to just somebody that's got an agenda to push.
They're trying to plug it. And so if you get to all the issues and the impact that PR and comms have when it's either not done properly or it's not given the credibility that it should have alongside everything else. And and I talk this way to anybody that we do these videos with, because different people have got different perceptions about a function or a category. If you were to say, right, what would the advice be to whether it's a large company, medium size, or startup type of company, what would help them resolve the issue and make sure that if they're going to approach somebody like yourself, one, they're not wasting their own time, and two, they're not wasting your time, because it takes, I think sometimes people forget that, like the lorries, you're busy people. So yes, you would like their business, but I don't want you wasting my time, and I don't want them to do it vice versa either. So what should be the right approach, and how should people approach PR and comms, ready for 2021, when they can all go out there and talk about things together and stuff?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of things. So giving it listening is basically, you're going out and you're looking to spend money on a service, right? And it's a service, it's consultancy, it's advice, it's not a product. So you're not, like you're saying to you're not going out and saying, well, I want 10 new desks and 10 new office chairs, and this it's a service. You're buying advice, so therefore kind of be willing or expect to be given advice. Like if you pick up the phone to an agency and say, we want PR, we want to be on the we want this coverage, and we want it within 6 weeks, and we're gonna pay you this amount of money, and they just say, yep, sure, that's fine, that sounds great, that's a concern. to me, that's that should be a red flag. Like if they don't ask questions, if they don't expect you to put any time in, or they don't put the time in kind of early on to really understand what you're trying to achieve, if they just sort of nod and take the business and take it forward. I mean, I think the thing is, it's really difficult, because that probably makes it easy as a buyer, because you're like, oh, that was straightforward. But actually, almost the more time that you're expected to put in up front by an agency, and perhaps, I don't know, not they shouldn't be making your life difficult, absolutely not, but they should be inquisitive, because that's the whole nature of a decent consultant, is somebody that is inquisitive and does ask questions. And I think it's always a red flag for us when we have companies that get in touch with us that have this really finite list of things that they want, that aren't willing to discuss it and sort of say, we want to see coverage within, we want to see tier 1 coverage within the first 6 to 8 weeks. This is our list of things that we want to talk about, and please don't ask us any questions. Can you just get on with it? That's the point when we would also walk away. And it's not because we haven't got time, because we're too important to deal with it. It's about saying it's not being started from the right place. Like the client agency relationship is broken if it's like this, if it's you telling us, here's a list of jobs, and us just nodding and going and doing it. You can find someone to do that. It's not us, because I don't think that, we've never seen that work. So it should be absolutely a level partnership. We should be able to say no, and we should always, when we're saying no, be giving advice. So we should be saying, we don't think that's the right approach, but what we think you could try is this. Because I hate it when people just say no for, no, that won't work. No, that doesn't work in our region. And you think, well, okay, well, then what does? So that bit is where we should always be giving advice. And we do that, early on. You end up giving a lot of advice for free that you're not being paid for. But it is a little bit sort of speculate to accumulate, because ultimately we've got a reputation to uphold. And if we don't give you the advice, we just nod our heads, take your money, and know sort of in our heart of hearts it's not going to work, then in 3 months you're going to be pissed off, and you're not going to want to carry on working with us. You're not going to feel that you've had any return, and where everyone sort of walks away feeling a bit not very good about it, and then we start the cycle again. And it's not rewarding on our side either, because actually in the first sort of 3-6 months of any kind of client relationship, we probably put in 30-40% more time than we're paid for. So if we do that knowing that we think it's not going to work, then we're almost shooting ourselves in the foot. So there has got to be an element on both sides. I think there's a bit of risk on both sides, and that's where I think that's important. It's almost like we'll take a bit of a risk, and we'll chuck in a bit more time than the one is budgeted for, because it's important to get it right. And we need the same on the vendor side, is that we'll put in a bit of time to answer the questions, to let you get access to the people that you need to get access to do a good job.
Yeah.
And then that's when it works, and that's when, you know, you see client relationships that go for sort of 5, 6, 7 years or more, because you've got that level of partnership from the beginning.
So if somebody said, and you mentioned it, you know, clients don't like being asked why, you know. So, you know, it's the thing that I say to them when they say, you know, our objective is this, and you say why, and and it's like you keep going. So being nice to them before they walk in the door, what would be the 2 or 3 things that they should contemplate with themselves about why before they even, you know, pick up the phone, send you an email to say, I'd like to come and chat to you?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would always, one of the questions I ask early on is who's buying your product. So who within an organization is going to buy your product, and who within an organization is going to influence that buying decision. So, you know, they're often 2 different people. There might be 3, 4, 5 different roles within an organization that you're trying to talk to. So don't just come with this idea of, we always ask that question, and a lot of time the answer is, well, it's C-level. It's just C-level. So, and you think, you know, you look at the profile of a chief people officer through to a CISO, through to, you know, a CEO, COO. Like, the range is massive. Yeah. So again, I think the question I always encourage and almost send people away with as a bit of homework after the first conversation is having a bit more of a think about who those people are. You don't have to come to us with the answer, which is, this is where those people hang out. This is the publication that influences those people. That's our job. Right. But having a sense of who they are is really important. The other thing that I think is vital is actually being really self-critical about what you think your differentiation point is. Right. So coming to us and saying, well, it's our customer experience, it's the high quality of service delivery, it's the speed, it's the efficiency. Like, you could take your brand, remove it, put another brand on it, and it would say exactly the same thing. There's nothing there that is anything different to anyone else. Yeah. So it's looking at what is our differentiation point, and if you don't have, you feel that they're sort of too generic, that's okay. Yeah. But looking for sort of data, perhaps, and stats that you have within your business that other people wouldn't have access to. Yeah. So it might be your customers, but often in security, you can't talk about your customers because, you know, that's quite normal. So what can what expertise do you have in-house? Do you have a really interesting person that heads up R&D that has a really different background that maybe another person doesn't have? Have they had a really interesting career history? That potentially is something that you have that somebody else doesn't. So it doesn't necessarily need to be product differentiation, but it's just looking for those little gems. Yeah. And the third thing I would say is actually talk to your sales team, which is like puts fear in the heart of a lot of marketing comms people. Like, I don't want to talk to sales, but understanding, asking, don't just go to them and say, you know, how can PR and marketing help you? Because that's absolute glutton for punishment. You're going to get a list of jobs, probably none of which you can actually implement or deliver. But asking them, why do you win? So when we win business, why is that? When we lose in in an RFP process, why is that? What are the sorts of questions that when you're talking to potential customers, what kinds of things they ask you? Yeah, that is gold. Because actually they're the people that are talking to the people that you are trying to influence through your marketing and PR activity. So getting those insights and coming to, you know, someone like us and saying, okay, so we know these are the people we're trying to sell to. We know that we think these might be our differentiation points. We're not sure. Completely fine. You don't have to have it locked down. And some of the challenges we're finding when we're pitching are X. Yeah, that in itself is a PR brief. Like, right. I think the thing that people think is that they have to come with this finite list of these are the activities we want you to deliver as part of our budget. Actually, like, we can tell you that's our expertise. What we need to understand is what makes your business tick or not tick, or, you know, not work. So I think that's again that would be the kind of the really useful things that companies could start to have a think about. And it's actually a lot less time consuming to do that than it is to write a 75-page RFP where everything is written down in finite detail. Like we can help you with that bit.
Yeah.
But having to think of those things before is great. Or we'll just ask those questions and then probably send you away with homework anyway. That's the first conversation. Yeah.
So, final question, and
Okay.
yeah, as I always put this on the longer version of this, because I never tell anyone I'm interviewing I'm going to ask them.
Oh, great.
I know.
This is a bit where my internet starts to just go and I just disappear.
Somewhere I'll get a backup. So if hypothetically, you understand the market that's there. So, why would somebody come to the Lorries to pitch their business? What does the Lorries give, apart from a company name that is long and very tongue-twisting, that some of the others out there don't have? And why do people stay with you as a company? So it's your self-promotion time.
Oh God, don't ask me to do that. I did a terrible job of it. Oh, someone phoned me after saying that was absolute crap. Right. Yeah. Well, I think, and it's not to say that this is there are lots of agencies out there, tons and tons and tons of consultancies. Yeah. Everyone does it slightly differently. I think the thing that makes us tick and that keeps clients kind of working with us long term is almost balance. So by balance, I mean, like, we've got, yes, we can scale globally because we have, our footprint is global, and we have a partner network of agencies that have similar level of expertise to us in terms of B2B tech, and they can, they can give you that really solid local advice. Yeah. But then, so you've got scale, and most growing businesses want that, so that's fine. But I think that the differentiation point is the way that we work in terms of that partnership element that I talked about. So we will tell you no, we'll give you advice, we'll tell you if we think something's not a good idea, we'll make suggestions for things that we think will work, and we'll ask a lot of questions. And I think the clients that stay with us long term appreciate that, because there's value there. That's how you unlock value in a relationship, is you talk and you ask questions back and forth and you challenge each other. So the clients that said they value that because it works long term. And not that won't be right for everyone, but it's right for us. And I mean, and then it's the sort of the knowledge, it's the sector specialist expertise. Like, we really, at a very deep level, understand the B2B tech industries that we work in. So, media, technology, broadcast, cybersecurity, data storage, the blockchain, AI, RPA, so there are these sector specialists within my team, people and they really love it. So this isn't about me having, and I say that almost as if
I need to go home more.
I don't, exactly. I need to get out more, but I don't have to go to one of my, team members that specializes in storage and with a new brief and say, I know it's a bit boring, but we've got this opportunity, and do you want to work with it? They really, really enjoy the aspects of technology that they work in. So I think that just helps, because you've already got a baseline of interest, and you've also got a baseline of understanding, so that I don't have to, bring one of my team in on a blockchain project and they have to spend 3 months learning what blockchain is. Like, they get it already. So I think that is so important. And then balancing that with the kind of breadth, really, is the sort of scale in terms of service. And so we can so actually our niche is the industry, and then the generalist element is geographical and sort of breadth of service. So range of things we get involved in across the marketing mix. So we're quite unbending on the specialism. We're not going to take, we don't end up working with, we're not going to work with a sort of a consumer fashion brand, for example. It's just not us. It's not our thing. No. So that's probably how I'd say. It's a very unsuccinct way of giving you a differentiation point. But there you go. But our clients would say, so that's nice, long term, and we have a lot of long-term 5-year plus relationships, and so we're doing something right with the ones that like the way that we work, are willing to answer the questions.
As you say, not everything is everyone's cup of tea, but when it works, absolutely, well, that's the way it did. Good. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And for stealing half an hour of your time in your busy diary. Yeah, and I hope everything goes well. And I know you've just opened a new office in Paris, I think, or in France.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, but it's a very funny time to be doing that. But I'm hoping to get on the Eurostar at some point, but not for now.